Mount Sinai School of Medicine has a Department of Preventive Medicine, and they are uniquely qualified to test how toxic everybody on the planet is, because we started Chelation thinking we had a rotor-rooter that would work like Drano and clean your pipes of your body so that the calcium that accumulates on your arteries as you age, causing hardening of the arteries and high blood pressure, would be helped by the intravenous treatment. And we were successful. We've avoided many amputations. We brought many people who couldn't see back to full vision. We brought many people who didn't know their family back to full functioning, able to drive a car again. So we're pretty excited. And as you may know by now, I have canceled bypass surgery on any patient who comes to me for well over 10 years, and I have no reported failures, meaning I've been fortunate. The patients who chose me have chosen to stay with my program because it is not curative. It's a program that you must take daily for life, because we have today so many toxins that are causing us to be unhealthy that there is no treatment that you can take for a week or a month that's going to give you the favorable outcome that we all need. So the Mount Sinai School will measure for $4,900. If you send them 20 tubes of blood, they'll measure about 220 chemicals, and all people tested so far have failed the test in that everybody has some cancer-causing chemicals, neurotoxins, so you either have loss of memory or you have a nervous tic or you have other problems like MS, and the list goes on. And then you have endocrine disruptors, so that you have children having full sexual development by age 9, and you have women with uncontrollable hot flashes and epidemic of breast cancer. So there's a link between these chemicals, but the link obviously is very clear to those of us who don't own the chemical company, because we have no conflict of interest. We just want to be healthy. But what really happens is no one is being told how much the detoxification is needed, because our third-party payment system has a doctor qualified to diagnose your heart disease or your multiple sclerosis or your fibromyalgia, but he's not allowed to order for you a $4,900 blood test at Mount Sinai School of Medicine to find out what's really wrong. So everybody pretends to know what's wrong and say, oh, you have autoimmune disease. We have a wonderful new drug for that. And isn't it wonderful that this expensive, toxic drug, which they admit very often may cause serious side effects — every drug does have serious side effects, sometimes life-taking side effects — but they say we have a treatment for your disease, and they never, ever bother to find out why you can't walk up the steps, or your child can't learn, or your mother can't find the way home. It's so sad that no one is talking about causes, whether it's ADHD or obsessive compulsive or autism or brain cancer. They don't talk about it. So now that we are realizing 1 out of 2 of our dogs will die of cancer, maybe we'll start to say, well, gee, Dr. Gordon, what can I give my pets? And, of course, zeolite will enter the discussion, because zeolite has taken oral detoxification to a new level. As the father of intravenous chelation and teaching around the world the use of 4 molecules of vinegar, which we call tetraacetic acid, so the full name of what we give you in the vein is EDTA. And that's ethylene diamine tetraacetic acid. But we have other chelators, and it turns out fiber, and so is chlorella, and so is zeolite, and so is vitamin C. We have many chelators. So who needs to detox? Well, if you think that you want to live your maximum intended useful lifespan, that we believe most of us were entitled to around 120 years if we had simply been given an owner's manual. It's my job to make sure that you become aware of how impotent today's standard medical therapies are, unless you're talking about trauma. With gunshot wounds and automobile accidents, you believe you have the best care in the world right in our emergency rooms. But if you say, gee, everybody in my family has diabetes and I don't want it, or everybody in my family has heart disease and I don't want it, and everybody in my family is coming down with cancer and I don't want it, then you need to learn how impotent and outmoded and outdated today's medicine is, but they're going to sucker people into it by paying for it, so they'll give you an expensive, useless drug. Today the FDA is aware that so many of the antidepressants are a joke, but it gets the patient out of the doctor's office because the patient says, gee, doc, I can't think, I can't see straight, and this and that, and the doctor says, you're depressed, here's a pill, get on your way. So he gets paid for his 7-minute visit, and it fits the system, and you get your drug covered by Uncle Sam, because if it's too expensive, your Medicare or something else kicks in, so it's not a level playing field. Those of you who want to know what's really wrong are not going to get the real test because it's not paid for. But fortunately, there's hope on the horizon. Great Plains Laboratory hopes to soon have a similar test to the $4,900 one, and it'll cost $300, so we can start moving you in the direction of knowing what's really wrong, rather than hanging a label on you so they can bill the insurance and put a name on it and call it carpal tunnel or call it something and get you out of the office when it has nothing to do with why you're really ill. So if we look at this picture, the epidemic of autoimmune disease, this book states, open and shut, that 27 million people have this range of over 100 conditions, including diabetes type 1. Now, talk about diabetes. They had an excellent special yesterday on PBS, a 1-hour interview about a book now in the bookstore called Diabetes Rising. And the researcher who wrote the book points out that diabetes was almost unheard of a short 60 years ago. A doctor might find one diabetic in his practice out of a lifetime of practice, just like 60 years ago, Paul Dudley White, Harvard cardiologist, who was the cardiologist in charge of President Eisenhower while he was in office and had 7 heart attacks. Paul Dudley White taught his students that in their lifetime they might diagnose one case of coronary artery disease. Now today, 1 out of 2 die of coronary artery disease unless they're lucky enough to know about Beyond Chelation, and they take the 9 pills morning and night. They dramatically reduce that chance of a heart attack for many reasons. The thing that we have to learn is that the autoimmune epidemic is trying to explain to you. If you buy the book, it is endorsed by the director at National Institutes of Health and by the director at Johns Hopkins. So this book is a very important book because the lady who wrote it twice had total body paralysis called Guillain-Barré, and both times it was immediately after a doctor, as uninformed as 99% of doctors are, gave her a flu shot without ever asking if she had any possibility of being unable to take a vaccination. And both times she went into total body paralysis. So she's studied this, and she now knows that because there are things in our bodies today called chemicals, and that some of us have genes that can't handle those chemicals, as a direct result of that, we have a huge number of people who can't handle a vaccination. And so you've gone into what we call disturbed methylation, and we'll teach you more about why I can't just send everybody 9 pills of Beyond Chelation Improved, and the 9 pills have 3 tablets that are multiple, 3 tablets that are essential daily defense that help take out toxins, and we all need toxins out. But one of them is a primrose, and one is an omega-3, and one is a phosphatidylserine ginkgo. And those 9 pills have miraculously, so far, eliminated virtually all fatal heart attacks and strokes in people lucky enough to get this protection twice a day. Now, that's not a hard concept. We know that if you own a car and you live in Minnesota where it gets cold, that you're going to put a little more antifreeze in the car so that it will handle those unique environmental conditions. It's my job to teach all of you that our environment has gone crazy and that no one on earth is above the problem. We don't all show it as the same disease. Some see cancer, others see diabetes, and others see multiple sclerosis. That's very largely governed by many complex factors, including genetics, but now we have a new problem. It's called epigenetics. And as we begin to see the toxic chemicals that are found in every baby born today, now what we're saying is frightening. We're saying if you did spend $4,900 and measure the toxins in your body, and then we then immediately, same day, took the blood from a child, your child living with you. If your child is young, average, child has 6 times the level of toxic chemicals that you show, and this slide should wake you up and make you mad. Because it's saying that the blood, the umbilical cord that ties the mother to the baby, we take that cord out after the baby is born, and we take the blood out of the cord, and it is loaded with all of these toxins, far higher than it was in the mother. It concentrates as it goes into the baby. So you're going to need to learn about zeolite and fiber, and you're going to learn why we take high-dose C and why we use chlorella and what all of these things can do, because the child, when it's born, according to the EPA, 600,000 children are born with mercury toxicity, and according to my reading of the literature, since there's no safe level of mercury, every child would be healthier if they had no lead and no mercury. So we technically need to put every pregnant lady on the earth onto a program of oral chelation and or fiber and or high-dose C and or zeolite, etc., so that we can do something to have a healthier future for our children. So the pollution, if you go to this website, it's Environmental Working Group. That's EWG.org. They will tell you how bad things really have gotten. And now we see that even the job the parent has, the job is brought home by the parent, and the net result is that what you're doing at your job is going to be contaminating the environment in which your child is existing during the pregnancy. I had a woman come to me. The baby was having seizures, several of them every hour. They'd been to UCLA, they had been to Stanford, and they'd been to UCSF, University of California, San Francisco. Every expert had been seen in pediatric neurology, and none of them could stop the seizure with any drug. I stopped them in 2 visits. How? I made an accurate history, found out that where the mother lived while she was pregnant was with her parents, and they were almond farmers. And the almond people spray toxic chemicals. I had her go home and get some of that chemical. I checked it energetically on a nerve point, an acupuncture nerve point, using very simple electronic testing, and determined that that was what was in the child's brain. And I went ahead and made a homeopathic dilution and gave some very simple mineral and vitamin supplements, and we reduced 90% in the first visit. Within a day, we had brought down the seizures to, instead of several per hour, we had only a couple of days. So it's very clear to me that medicine today is archaic. It is so obsolete. It is so outdated with reality that we need to sweep it out and bring in a new medicine called advanced medicine. Just look at this picture. If you happen to shampoo your dog using what is told you in the pet store is very safe, all natural, ignore that nonsense. They're not accurate, because it turns out that you will simply shampoo the dog twice during a pregnancy, and you've doubled the likelihood of a child being autistic. So this is Environmental Working Group, again, EWG. Go to their website, .org, and read about what I'm teaching you here, because these are all the facts. We have really polluted our nest. So bisphenol A, BPA, it is the hardener in the plastic. Because we drink our water from plastic bottles, and we seem to have no choice because the water is so dangerous, as I'll show you in a few slides, The hardener in the plastic is bisphenol A, but the phthalates are 10,000 times higher in everyone today than they were 10 years ago. And it may be a major part of the 40% drop in sperm count, so that now we have to see a reproductive specialist in order to have a baby. We can't have a baby the old-fashioned way. So, Environmental Working Group is teaching you with this website, ewg.org, how much danger there is in the tap water. And, of course, we bathe in it. We bathe our babies. So I put together the same basic 4 molecules of vinegar that we use intravenously when we treat people who've got serious angina or a leg that's turning black or vision that's dropping or a memory that's going away. We use chelation with EDTA, and we put the EDTA in the product called Beyond Clean, and we tell you to go home and put it in the bathtub, 2 to 6 tablespoons, and we tell you you can combine it with another form of vinegar, that's apple cider vinegar. Or another day you can mix it with some very simple baking soda, like a cup or more. Another day you can use a cup of magnesium. We call it Epsom salts. Now, Epsom salts doesn't work very well by mouth. It gives you diarrhea and cramps, and it doesn't absorb by mouth. But through the skin, you can definitely see some real benefits. But the EDTA, that's the white powder, is food grade that is in the Longevity Plus product. And we have found that many of our distributors in foreign countries have found that since the water supplies that we bathe in are only a part of the problem, so they have their families bathing, and you can have the baby bathe, and when mama can bathe in the same water. You don't even have to throw it away. But the important thing is that, amazingly, the skin doesn't age as much when you take and expose the skin to water that has got EDTA in it, because the skin is a major organ of excretion of many toxics, such as mercury. So we even have people in third world countries who cannot afford to be on the deluxe product that is called Beyond Chelation Improved, which gives you in 9 pills virtually the most powerful multiple. It's called Beyond Any Multiple, BAM, and the most powerful oral chelator, EDD. But what they have found is they're getting a little of that benefit because they can't afford to be on the basic prevention concept of BCI or even Beyond Vitamins, which is the one for the whole family. So what they've done is they've learned to treat the water they drink, since they can't all afford to find some kind of pure water, just like you can bathe in water. This is, I repeat, food grade EDTA. So somebody can treat their drinking water and wind up putting in the actual Beyond Clean in a glass of water. And how much is in a teaspoon? A level teaspoon is 3,000 milligrams. That's the dose that we give to an average-sized adult human, and we put that in the vein. When we put it in the mouth, it's only about 5 to maybe 12% absorbed, so it is not going to do the same as the intravenous. Let's not be confused, but it's going to tie up the bad things that are in the water that we drink. So the bottom line is we have many people going online today saying, well, gee, if they couldn't afford Beyond Chelation and they only were getting oral EDTA, if they stayed to a low dose so that it didn't upset the intestine, because if you use too much, you'd get a little diarrhea and some cramps. It wouldn't be a big deal. But they've learned that a lot of people can handle half a teaspoon morning and night. So they put a whole teaspoon in, say, 6 ounces of water, drink half the water in the morning, half at night. And so some people are getting rid of the lead, which is one of the basic things that EDTA does. Now, that's where the confusion sits. Because we thought, due to my dramatic response on my body with intravenous chelation, we thought that if we just put it in the vein, we were cleaning all the arteries, because so many people suddenly had energy again, and my angina went away, and all these good things happened to people, and we prove all these benefits. We've treated over 10 million people, but now we're looking to say, wait a minute. A lot of times the patient got the energy. They went back to playing tennis, but their artery on the repeat steady was no better, and sometimes it was even worse, which is really strange. How can the artery look worse and the guy is now playing tennis? Well, it's because circulation is much more complicated because it goes through collateral little vessels that don't show up in the angiogram and anything. But I just wanted everybody to understand that we now have proof that the lower your level of lead, the longer you live, and the less likely you are to have cancer or diabetes or heart attacks. And it's a dramatic association, so we just want everybody to know that any form of EDTA, whether you're bathing in it, and we have it now in gum for people who can't afford to take all the mercury fillings out of their mouth, and we are actually using EDTA then topically for everybody to bathe in because it has anti-aging effects. The dark spots, which are called lipofluxin, that accumulate on the back of people's hands that are free radical mediated, seem to lighten when people use the extra EDTA for bathing. So it has a beauty effect while it's causing the child to behave much better. In fact, children ask to be bathed. They feel that different with EDTA. So that's covered in my book. The book, Detox with Oral Chelation, was some of that material. But we're coming back to this problem, how toxic is our world? Well, this is another new article from epidemiology showing that Parkinson's, which we can explain to you if you read the big book, the autoimmune epidemic, ties to not just these toxics that we're talking about here, organophosphates. When you get your arms around the problem we're talking about now, we're talking about persistent organic pollutants. Now, that's a big name, and who wants to bother? We call them POP, persistent organic pollutants. But if you go and you put that in Google, and then it'll say health effects, it will teach you some very frightening things. Because the DDT was part of this, but so are the dioxins and the PCB, and very specifically, we can now tell you that we've done studies, and virtually no one we've ever tested is free of dioxins and PCBs. But now we're able to tease out that some of us have genes that don't handle these toxins very well. And now that's really interesting is that diabetes, which like heart disease was virtually unknown 60 years ago, and now we all know that by age 21, at least 50% of all young men in America have significant blockages on artery called plaque by age 21. And that 1 out of 2 die of arteriosclerosis, and if you did die of another disease, it wasn't because you also still had your arteriosclerosis. So what is frightening now is one paper suggests that there's almost a 37-fold increase in the likelihood of your having diabetes because of the levels of persistent organic pollutants in your body, which again are measurable, but the price is going to come down. And so part of my FIGHT program is going to be something that everybody can measure. Now, the problem is two-sided. Tests cost money. Some doctor usually has to help you understand what the test meant. And no single test is definitive because often one test needs to be tested by another method to confirm it if it's really that unusual. Now we're talking about infection because it's so hard to put all these pieces together. I can talk about persistent organic pollutants and lead and mercury, but who is ever going to tell you about XMRV? Is that some kind of a new recreational vehicle or something new like FM? No, XMRV is now being heavily tied to the fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome that's epidemic around our world. And I'm only showing it to you so that when some doctor tells you that you don't need Dr. Gordon's FIGHT program, it's because he's uninformed. Because I can probably find infection in everybody listening to my voice. If it's not Coxsackie or chlamydia or candida, it will be one of these other infections that you don't want to learn about, which is mycoplasma, incognito, and now XMRV. The list of infections is very long, and I can do a lot with advanced cellular silver, which is why if you said, how am I going to do a FIGHT program on everybody, since very few doctors are going to give you ozone in this country, and most of us don't have enough money to get an intravenous vitamin C every day, which would be great if we could, because if everybody could have 5 daily or every other day intravenous vitamin C treatments, vitamin C becomes hydrogen peroxide. And like ozone and like silver, the ACS, advanced cellular silver, which this little bottle actually only has 2 ounces, and people who are really ill are going to need an ounce today and an ounce tomorrow. So this is a 2-day supply for somebody who is in serious shape. But people taking as little as 20 sprays and spraying over the eye 2 to 4 times a day for a couple of months have seen dramatic improvement in vision. Some people even think their cataracts were getting better, but it's important to recognize that we always combine the silver with the zeolite because the silver is lowering the level of infection, and it costs about $5,000 to try to measure some of these infections like Coxsackie and chlamydia and cytomegalic virus and the list in Candida. The list gets so, and then once you do that, then you see an infectious disease specialist, but he doesn't know anything about magnesium or vitamin C, and he just wants to give you the newest drug, which you get afraid to take after you read up on the new drug. So now we have environmental doctors, and we have very much interest in the Toxic Substance Control Act. Why are we interested? Because we actually have an intelligent scientist currently running Environmental Protection Agency. EPA is now being run by Lisa Jackson, PhD, who's really got the right credentials and is there to do an important job, which is to try to help the American population learn the truth. Because remember, if the government is completely under the control of the polluters, you will never learn the truth. Your doctors will never practice this kind of medicine. You'll continue to be given ridiculous drugs that mask symptoms, and no one will be treating the causes. It makes me extremely mad to take every cancer patient and say, oh, I'm going to do surgery. Well, wait a minute. Is cancer a local disease just in my breast or just in my prostate, or is it a systemic disease? Once you understand that it's not just local, cutting it out has done nothing but cut down the likelihood that you'll take the necessary steps to get yourself well, which is why I get so mad when they then follow it with radiation and chemo, and they say, don't take any supplements, you'll wreck the chemo. What lies? They know that every tumor that has ever been cut apart and measured is loaded with toxins and infections. So who are they lying to? What is this game? How can you take people's money and say, oh, we have a drug for that now, and you look at their data? They're $10,000 a month drugs. If you read the data, in general, have never extended lifespan more than 2 months. But before you die, they get $100,000 of your money or the taxpayers or your employer's money, and you've lived 2 months longer, but they denied you the right to get at treating the causes. If you look at the data, we can actually show. Go on my website and see vitamin C in cancer. Spend the time. Go to Gordon Research. Click on the word presentations and read. I have the data that you will do 4 to 5 times better in terms of your outcome with lung cancer, colon cancer, if you don't listen to these idiots who try to pretend that our cancer is in our body because we had a deficiency of chemotherapy and a deficiency of radiation therapy. What nonsense. So Invisible Killers is by an MD that became aware that zeolite was doing some good things. And he wrote a book to wake people up because the doctors are not going to measure this. If you feel bad, they're going to tell you it's in your mind, you're depressed, you need an antidepressant. And FDA today says most of the antidepressants don't work anyhow. So the whole thing is out of control. But as long as the doctor plays the game and gives you a phony diagnosis and gives you the same treatment that everybody else gets, then everybody's happy excepting you because you still have no energy. Your memory is going away, and you're going down the road toward illness, and the drugs aren't solving the problem. We know we all need some probiotics. Probiotics are very important. Mercury is in everybody. It's gotten to the point that the mama fish tells the baby fish, don't eat the humans anymore. They're not safe to eat. We all need more vitamin D. 5,000 units a day for an adult becomes essential to keep you feeling good. And you're all going to have to learn from this website, if you click on it, how you've been lied to about the sun. And the sun actually cuts down the most serious cancer of skin cancer, malignant melanoma, is reduced when you're in the sun. So we've been told to not be in the sun, and they're lying to us because the squamous and basal cell cancers are all entirely curable. And I repeat, it's BEC-30. 5, and you buy it from anti-aging-systems.com. You put it on the lesion, and you don't need to be afraid of the sun because all skin cancers are curable. The number of people who die of skin cancer is infinitesimal. The number of people who are dying from vitamin D deficiency, we think that 68% reduction in breast cancer would occur if everybody had optimal levels of vitamin D. Now, Longevity Plus has vitamin D. We're happy to sell it to you, but we'd like you to get some of the truth. We don't want to just always sell you something if you can have a natural thing and enjoy the sun again. And now everybody thinks the vitamin A is so toxic. Yet the World Health Organization uses 200,000 units of A when they want to save a child's life. So you need to learn that vitamin A used for a short time of 1 to 5 days is dramatically helping us overcome all kinds of infection. And the Quinton Marine Plasma, if you really took the time to learn what this is, this little glass vial, you break off the little glass tip with a little protector, and you drink the contents of this, and athletes do far better. And we've even treated children 100 years ago with tuberculosis using this all-natural from the sea nutritional source of trace minerals and RNA. So Quinton Marine Plasma is one more natural thing, totally affordable. But when I have people that have been told they have multiple sclerosis and the doctor who gives them dangerous, expensive treatments year after year until they wind up totally paralyzed in a wheelchair, virtually blind, never once asks the patient, gee, what was your job? When we proved with Sherry Rogers' excellent book, Detox or Die, that we took people that had been a hairdresser and put them on the Hubbard therapy where you have to go into expensive 8 hours a day in a sauna with a heavy, heavy nutritional program, and you do that for a month, sometimes 2 months. But if your entire bed sheets turn purple and your pillow turns purple and you worked as a hair dye specialist for years, but nobody was giving you anything but you're depressed, painkillers, no one was getting the toxins out. We have to use real products. Zeal Gold, Bioenergy C, and the oral 9-pill packet of pills beyond chelation, those 3 things took a young man who had been 20 years under leading medical center on the East Coast, wound up in the wheelchair. They said, there's nothing more we can do. We've tried everything. He finally comes to one of our ACAM doctors, does some intravenous vitamin C with some intravenous Myers. Dr. Meyer of Johns Hopkins is deceased, but he was a brilliant doctor who taught people that when we inject in your body some B vitamins and some magnesium, we can see some benefits, and especially if we do it the same day with vitamin C. And we now know that there's a whole group of people, due to genetics, they can't get enough magnesium out of their diet. Just like the dramatic changes I'm seeing in my body, no matter how much of a particular nutrient you take, the sick area in your body, which could be your coronary artery, it could be your kidney, it could be a part of your brain, doesn't usually get all that it needs to overcome the fight that it's involved in. So whether you're told that you have a rare brain disease or some weird connective tissue, you need to know that my basic program is first, do no harm. Don't use drugs that don't offer any real help other than for a short time when you've been hit by a truck. Of course, we need a drug for those. But if we look at what we're trying to realize is my fight program is designed to teach you that everybody has lead. It's going to take 15 years of oral chelation, even zeolite. Why do I like zeolite? Zeolite can't get it out faster than the 15 years, but zeolite, on top of my oral chelation, does things that I can't do with just the oral chelation, because zeolite, as I'll show you in a couple of minutes, does things that beyond the heavy metals. It takes out aflatoxins and provably takes an animal. Let's say you're a farmer and you give zeolite to your hogs or your chickens or your lamb, and it enhances lean body weight gain by 20% with the same amount of food, meaning you've so detoxed the animal that it's now getting lean body, healthy muscle weight gain from food that was being wasted. So it's dealing with something called the biofilm. Now, this is to prove to you that absolutely the lead in your bone, according to Harvard, is not safe, and it is poisoning your eye and it's poisoning your heart. This is to show you that when I have a child and somebody says the child can't talk and they say, oh, well, it's got nothing to do with mercury, they're lying, because I haven't found a child with autism that I couldn't get heavy metals out when I dealt with the child using the FIGHT program and overcame the I, the infection, and G, the genetics, so I gave methylation support, and the H, so I gave the necessary heavy metal detoxification treatment as well as hormonal support, and the T, so I did some far infrared saunas and helped from the fiber in the special maca, in the special form of vitamin C that we have that can move toxins. So it's so sad, because here's a bright doctor telling a mother, well, forget it, I've looked at your child, there's no mercury. So I love tests, because tests will let us, you and I, take better care of ourselves. If I have a nice thermograph and I tell you your breast isn't as healthy as it could be, I'm giving you a warning. If I do the blood test that we do at caprofile.org, .net, caprofile.net. If I do that blood test and it's not all good, don't worry. It just says we need to change something. Get more immune support. Let's change your diet. Let's get rid of foods that you don't handle well. It could be wheat, could be dairy. I mean, 30% of people will not have optimal health as long as they eat any wheat. 40% of people will never have optimal health as long as they're getting any of the dairy products. So here's a doctor telling the family, gee, your kid has no mercury. That child was brought to me, and this is what I found, and it took a year and a half, and it was antimony one week, and it was tin, and then it was absolutely lead, and so it's just amazing the toxins that come out. And see, one toxic makes the other one 100 times more toxic. So if you have a little lead, then your mercury is far more serious, and you can't be born on this earth without your bones averaging 1,000 times more lead than any bones we tested from just 300-400 years ago by Caltech with Clara Patterson, all published. So here's an attorney general in Utah saying, gee, when he took impossibly poisoned police officers and treated them with the sauna and this heavy program of nutrition called the Hubbard, and he treated them, they absolutely went back to work when they had been given lifetime disability diagnosis. But no one knew anything about detoxing people significantly, the HUBBARD. So that this is the Institute of Medicine telling you that if you're chronically ill, you better think that you might have Lyme. That's Borrelia. And we can prove now that that Lyme doesn't have to be an intravenous treatment of antibiotics for a year. We can overcome it if you do my multifactorial FIGHT program and realize that the ACS silver, it's expensive, and you may need to have an ounce a day for several months. That means buying a 4-ounce bottle is going to be gone in 4 days, but we can help people with these infections. And if you could see a doctor that does ozone, as we have in Nevada and in Arizona and in every street corner in Germany and Russia, anybody can get ozone and ultraviolet blood, which works similar to the way the silver does. But the silver is oral, so it will not be as strong as in the vein, but at least it's something you can do at home. So this slide is to convince you that when you thought you got over that bad, nasty something when you were coughing, you got rid of it, but it didn't leave you. The little organisms are now growing for the rest of your life in the plaque that you will develop on your brain, which we call things like Alzheimer's, and the plaque that you have on your arteries that we call arteriosclerosis. So we now realize that we have a book called Plague Time, this germ theory that doctors are doing nothing about. They never tie together, what are your genes? Are you an ApoE4 and a smoker, and you got chlamydia and pneumonia from a girlfriend or other people? The net result is you are now a walking candidate for serious illness because it's multifactorial, which is why you've got to take the time to listen to these webinars, play them, review these slides at your leisure, and understand that cytomegalic virus, your doctor isn't going to tell you that you've got it. But Harvard says that about 99% of all people on the earth have CMV, and they now admit that it's causing kidney disease, stroke, and heart disease. So we do have immunity 2 and immunity 3 with special transfer factor that is designed to help your body fight against some of these infections, and high-dose C, and we teach you how to use high-dose D if you're coming down with something. Take 50,000 units of D for a day or two, and take 400,000 vitamin A for a day or two, and the garlic. I try to give you the tools so you don't wind up in the emergency room sitting next to people who have things you can't even spell, because the world is getting sick. So you need to be able to take care of yourself at home, and you need to know how all these things work. The vaccines, this is right off the website of the Center for Disease Control. They would like to tell you there are some precautions, and yet no doctor gives you any of this information. When you read everything I have written on vaccines, you probably won't take them in the first weeks of life, and you probably may want to be very judgmental about what you do take. And now Harvard admits, oh, gee, that swine flu that we thought was going to, well, maybe it was a lot of hype. It's sad to have our government now going to practice medicine when this most recent situation has them admitting that they totally oversold the story. They do the same on trying to sell you mammograms, which no woman needs or wants. They increase breast cancer. Thermograph and blood tests and self-examination are satisfactory, much more useful. And remember, go to my website and put in a word that you're interested in. If you're interested in fibromyalgia, put it in the search area. If you want to learn about cancer, put in cancer and then read Kobayashi. We have a program, 10,000 patients, 12 years, 0 deaths with cancer. It's because we did a blood test that allowed us to know who needed to clean up their act and change their lifestyle and add a really good immune support and detox and use some saunas. We don't have a deficiency of chemotherapy, radiation, or surgery. What we have is people who are not being told the truth. Isn't it wonderful that Hawaii are going to have a resolution so they're not going to permit forced vaccinations? Lyme disease means you're going to have to study my FIGHT and find out which foods do you need to get off. There's a blood test, sage.org, other tests that will show you. But what are we going to do about the mouth? Unless you buy ACS silver and hold at least 10 sprays morning and night for a minute or two in your mouth, you will have things in your mouth that will wind up provably raising your risk of dying of a heart attack because these little buggers don't stay in the mouth. So the ACS silver and the zeolite, the ACZ is a zeolite that is a homeopathic version that we start for every child, any pet, anybody that you need to help, spray it on the skin if it's not. But the ACZ works with the ACS, and when we start with ACZ, you have a very gentle opening up of starting the body, and it says you can take 1 spray, but you can work up to 10 sprays 4 times a day. Once you understand that this in 1 bottle, I have the exact same dose in this homeopathic version that I give you in 1 capsule of the pre-measured dose called Zeogold. Now, the silver was developed by Daryl Tichy in the bottom right-hand corner, and it is a unique silver. Your doctor knows nothing about it. Go on the website and read. The studies have been done by outside independent laboratories like Brigham Young University. Dr. Robinson, he does work for the U.S. government, and he absolutely has the data to show that this ACS silver is doing things that no other silver has ever done to lower bad guys. But if we're going to lower bad guys, we're going to have to take acidophilus to put good guys in. So if we go into this picture, we have this problem of genetically modified food. So whenever you can, you want to find a farmer's market. You want to be eating organically. And we want to teach people that there is a biofilm issue. The biofilm is a big word, but it's really a place for all of the pathogens, these candida, these chlamydia, these things have to have a place to live. And so we have a film on our intestine, and we will have a film on other cells in the body, which will make it difficult for your nutrients to get in, which is why sometimes, no matter how much magnesium you're taking by mouth, nothing will work until you have an IV Myers injected intravenously by a doctor in your area. And we have a large number of doctor referral available from the Fight for Your Health list. And the Fight for Your Health is on the main website, Gordon Research. It tells you to please go to the Zeolite Answer website to learn why zeolite is the most powerful detoxifier, and there's never been in existence in the world the new Zeogold form, which we'll show you in a few seconds. But across the board, the biofilm is what I found as I was on a 3-month intensive program using the new form of zeolite and the fiber and the enzymes It gets expensive, I will admit, but I don't mind. It's on my website. I tell people what I take. But when we get rid of it, you'll see that it takes fiber. So you should be, when I say power drink, I tell people they need to be on our special C, the fiber, the maca, and the green. The green has the chlorella. So when you begin to get your arms around this picture, detoxifying is not an overnight thing. It's a lifelong battle. And now Duke University has done the study with Randy Turtle to prove that bisphenol A is one of the things that will cause your genes to change overnight, so that mice that never had obesity or diabetes, now all of their offspring for all time will be obese and or diabetic. And it's all tied to this plastic stuff that we're wrapping our food in, putting our water in. And this is Renee Jasper at the Ames Research Laboratory, University of California in Berkeley. And what you'll learn here is that if you get the Beyond B12, a special product that Longevity Plus has, you'll get the necessary form of folic acid, not the cheap one that's in every multiple, but the more advanced forms, folinic acid and 5'-methyltetrahydrofolate, that help bring your DNA back to what it was before you became obese and /diabetic, with this epigenetic change that happens when we warm some of our foods in plastic containers and we get this bisphenol A. Bottom line here is one thing. Don't assume your doctor knows what he or she wouldn't know. That's why you need to join the webinars. You're going to learn what zeolite is. It's natural, volcanic mineral that has tiny crystalline structure, and it's got these little tiny pores, these little tunnels, and the tunnels are the exact size, and it comes only from volcanic activity. The good Lord put it here on our earth, not just to treat ants' diarrhea, but as an anti-cancer, an antioxidant, an immune enhancer, even helps on hangovers, but it has ion-exchanging, absorbing properties. And it is alkaline, and it buffers the body. So across the board, when we give it to animals, we have far healthier animals. We have far fewer malformed fetuses. We find not so many infections in our animals. And the difference is that when you put it in an animal, the animal is starting to operate at optimal levels. And our vitamin C. Vitamin C is still the only way to cure the incurable. But it's dose-related, which is why sometimes you've got to go to the doctor and take 100 grams in the vein every other day for a few treatments. Because when somebody says nothing more can be done, that's not true. There's always something more. But vitamin C is destroyed in your body virtually overnight by the level of toxins. In other words, vitamin C is electron donor, but you have electron destroying with the lead and the mercury and the phthalates and the polybrominated diphenyl ethers and all the stuff. So the zeolite ties those bad guys up so the C can give you the level, and only our little C stick allows you to measure the level of C in your urine, so you'll find out how many in your family. When you have them wet the stick, that Longevity Plus will sell you a $10 for 50 tests, and if that stick stays the dark green color, you're not going to get optimal health out of anybody. If you want to have help, you need to be able to turn that little stick to bright yellow, and you can't do that without a high-quality C that won't upset your stomach and it's not well absorbed. Now, you can do it intravenously, but that's expensive, so Bioenergy C was designed to help you get the levels to go with the zeolite. And the zeolite will help keep those levels of C high because you won't be wasting it needlessly fighting the toxins in our bodies. So the zeolite is talked about at Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, and they tell you there that it's looked at today for its ability to deal with pathogens, even these infections, and to stabilize your blood sugar and your diabetic. If you read all the things that it's been shown to do, you could see that the good Lord put this on our earth for us to find it. And we have been very fortunate to find a zeolite that is 20 times the surface area of any other zeolite and 50% stronger magnetic field. So Wyora has got a liquid form, and they have done a good job of marketing as a multi-level company their product, and they're using it for all the problems from asthma to allergy and cancer. And I was skeptical when I first saw their research. But when I learned that it was real, we just decided the time has come. They're on the right wavelength. All we did is give you two versions, a liquid version that is more homeopathic that anybody can start with, and then a pre-measured capsule that when you open it, there's 100 milligrams. That's the equivalent of a whole jar of the ACZ, and you can open that and put it in any fluid, but you must open it because zeolite only works optimally when it has been hydrated. So we know our water, food, and air are all toxic. We know that we have 116 toxic chemicals in every human being today. We can explain these little channels get the lead and the mercury, but they don't rob your body of the calcium. That's due to the size of the atoms. We can teach you that there have been studies that it even will deal with the tri- and dichlorobenzene molecule. Why do you care about that? Well, we now have about 40 ex-Marines who 30 years ago were at a Marine base in North Carolina that had the highest level of benzenes in the water, and now some 30 years later, all 40 men have advanced breast cancer that's threatening their life and may kill them. And it was due to things like benzenes. So we obviously have to learn more than just lead and mercury, and so it has to be liquid zeolite in order, but we give it to you as a capsule to give you the concentrated higher dose to deal with more serious illnesses. And for serious problems, I've been taking as many as 3 and 4 of these at a time because I know how many toxic and I know how long it takes to get all the toxins out. Even though I've had over 200 intravenous chelations, I know that we can't get rid of all the lead in our bones in less than 15 years. Now, zeolite will grab mercury and then lead, and then tin, then cadmium, then arsenic, then aluminum, then antimony. So it doesn't get all of them the same day. So if we look at these little actual chambers, they are perfect to get the toxins out. And what we're explaining to you is that in this particular case, the new ZeoGold has a very special advantage in that it's 450 meters per gram, and there's only 24 meters per gram, and all the good zeolite, and zeolite is the best filter on the face of the earth. You can't do space travel with NASA without using zeolite because they're going to have to recirculate the air, and they have to recirculate the water on the spaceship. So ZeoGold is truly man's answer to a tough problem, and one of the reasons is because you can get from a tiny single capsule almost the same surface area as you do from an entire Olympic pool. And you can use it to remove the toxics from the water, just like I suggested at the beginning to use EDTA. And we have the Beyond Clean as a powder that you can use to pull out bad things from your drinking water. And the removal of heavy metal from water, and after all, your body is at least 70% water. So in short, I tell everybody, get the lead out. Now, ZeoGold is an aluminosilicate. It is an infinitely extending three-dimensional network of aluminum hydroxide and silicon hydroxide. The natural porosity and channel network with a negative surface charge is able to do things for my health, even though I'm the father of intravenous chelation, that have allowed me to do things I could never dream of hoping to do when I was 25 and now I'm 75. So I'm pretty excited that we can have high level of health. The sad thing is they've made it difficult. We are all born today with a lot of toxins. So these are some of the solid things that we can tell you about the detoxing using the ZeoGold. The water molecules will pass through. The cations in water undergo ion exchange with other minerals. The efficacy for cation removal is dependent on the type of zeolite, so do not be confused. I put up the zeoliteanswer.com website so that if your well-meaning physician tells you zeolite is a ripoff or it's a joke or it couldn't do any good, that you'll have a couple of hundred references to inform him that he's just not up to date on the subject. Because it's cation, CEC stands for cation exchange capacity. So it works differently than chelation. So it is actually synergistic with the oral chelators that we talk about. And oral chelators like Heavy Detox that Longevity Plus has, that's DMSA, an essential daily defense that is the garlic, along with EDTA, that's part of the Beyond Chelation Improved. All of these things have a synergistic additive effect. But we want you to see that the bottom line is that the surface area of the new ZeoGold is at least 10 times the surface area of any competing ZeoGold you can buy, zeolite that you can get from anybody on the face of the earth today. and that the cation exchange capacity is clearly far greater, between 1.3 and 1.5 times exchange, and the lead removal, therefore, tends to be nearly twice the amount of lead for the same amount of material. So Zeogold gives you the all-R-lipoic acid and the glutathione and the humic acid and a small dose of the most advanced vitamin C on the face of the earth called Bioenergy C. So there's 5 things in Zeogold. But we talked to you about the zeolite so you would understand, because once you learn that the top people in the world talking anti-aging tell you that you must have, for full, healthy, functioning cells, the mitochondria, the motor of the cell, must be detoxed with the right kind of lipoic acid, the all-R form, and that had to be stabilized. So Zeogold is truly a wonderful step in my fight program. We've discussed the fight program on previous webinars. I've told you to get the sticks so you can make sure that you and your loved ones do not stay in the green that you see. The tiny stick in the bottom right-hand corner is the color when you take it out of the tube. When you wet it, within a few seconds, it's got to turn bright yellow, or you do not have enough vitamin C to optimally have high health, because the yellow color here is the color you want, and the only bioenergy C that you can get is that product. And there's other tests we can do, but my book with oral chelation, on top of my chelation answer and the omega-3 miracle, are the way to try to learn, because my job is to have you learn the whole program, because I'm getting wonderful questions, and I'm going to take some of those questions now to give you an idea of the questions I'm getting, and I will be doing some more interviews on July 18th with Benny Hinn, so there'll be more information coming out. But you need to know the Fight for Your Health website is a critical part of your getting the answers, the Zeolite Answer website. And here's a blog that you can do to where this nurse who had multiple sclerosis and Lyme and cancer and COPD and has walked around with a walker for a long time and has to have oxygen, she is now totally becoming reborn through the use of the products. So I thank you for your attention, and now I'm going to take this opportunity to just remind you one more time. When you go to my website, click on the word presentation. That's where you find all the other webinars. And all of these other websites are just websites that we do to try to get you fully informed. Now, I'm going to take a couple of the questions that I've received from previous contacts, and we'll be then letting you fill out some more questions for us to interview and go into more depth next week. So the first question I have here is, we have a problem with methicillin-resistant staph. We're not doing well. When I tell this person that we made Immunity 2 with a special form of garlic called Allizin, A-L-L-I-Z-I-N, that is proven to help overcome methicillin resistance, that's the tip of the iceberg. But then I tell them, 3 to 4 days, take high-dose A. If you're an adult, that could be as much as 500,000, and they only come in 10,000 unit drops, so you would take 50 drops for 3 or 4 days, and you would be taking, during that time, never less than 3 slightly heaping teaspoons of Bioenergy C, so you would be getting 4 grams from each teaspoon, or 12 grams, that would be 1 slightly heaping teaspoon every 8 hours of the C. Then you would need at least 10 of the vitamin D, so you get 50,000 D when you're having this kind of a fight. And the dose of the ACS silver is an ounce to start. And if somebody's supposed to die by morning, you give them another ounce 4 to 6 hours later. You cannot harm anybody if they drank the whole 4-ounce bottle of silver. It's just I don't want to waste the money. So basically, the dose, 1 ounce is 150 sprays when you push up and down with a pump. So if you wanted to be scientific about it, most people would take 50 sprays every 8 hours. So that's a simple thing, but then you have to tell anybody, gee, if you can't overcome methicillin resistant, you probably need to learn the fight program. You probably should, once we overcome the infection, learn that Dr. Gordon would want you to finally have the ability to measure all the toxins in your body, which I repeat, very hopefully the Great Plains Lab will have for $300 what now costs you $4,900, and we'll be able to tell people what some of the toxins are they have in their body, and we can get them more interested in the long-term detoxification with the zeolite and the power drink, which I repeat, my power drink is the maca, the organic green, the special form of C that there's nothing like it on the face of the earth, because Bioenergy C is a methylation support product. It is a vitamin C delivery system. It is not just a vitamin C. And then we have them also taking the fiber as well as the maca and the green and the C. So that's the power drink. But if we look then at the big picture, the next question is, I'm battling continuing infection. My son has always got chronic sinus. What can you do? Well, same answer. Again, somebody who's totally broke, you can actually go to any store, and most of the stores will have some garlic in them, and there's a good garlic from Japan called Kyolic. If you're lucky enough to get the liquid form, I've treated pneumonia with people taking a 2-ounce bottle of a liquid garlic from Japan called Kyolic. And I love to have people use homeopathics. And there's a great one called Oscillococcinum, and it is in every one of the health food stores, and it overcomes flus. And across the board, when somebody has a continuing infection, you've got to figure that they've never heard of Dr. Gordon's Fight program, because if they're always sick, that means they, A, need to stop some foods they're reacting to. So if we don't have any tests, we can just stop all the dairy product and all the wheat or any food they've ever reacted badly to. But the problem is foods are complicated. A lot of people think they're not allergic to it unless they break out with a rash the same day. It's not that kind of deal at all. It's the kind of deal that some foods don't even hit you for 2 days after you eat it. That's called the delayed reaction. So we have IgG, IgE, and now we have immune complex reactions, which is why I'm driving more and more people who have insurance to use the SAGE, SAGE.com test. That SAGE lab will be $1,200, but insurance pays for it. And they'll be able to start to get deeper into not just the simple thing of taking away obvious, since 30% of all people should not be eating any wheat gliadin substance, and they're going to have to learn triticale, amaranth, and quinoa, buckwheat, and buckwheat's got no wheat, it's from the rhubarb. There's a lot to learn. But when they're having continuing infections, and you've got to figure that this person really needs to get detox, they want to get in the whole program, and I've covered that a little bit in today's presentation, but detoxing is a lifetime problem. I said we could bathe in the tub. We could use this Beyond Clean, which some people, I repeat, are treating their drinking water, taking a glass of drinking water and putting 3 grams of EDTA in the glass, taking half a teaspoon in the morning and half at night, so that they're getting some of the effect of the EDTA without buying the expensive deluxe product of the Beyond Chelation. Why is it the deluxe? Because it puts in the necessary things while removing bad things. Just taking something like EDTA orally is only a fraction of the thing. It's a little bit like using a wheelbarrow when you could have used a pickup to move things. It's a totally different level. So now we have a 10-year-old with inattentive ADD and taking a drug and becoming very tired and very pale. So my first thing is this. I have a bad feeling about drugs. Most people do not know enough about the drug they're taking. They can put the name in and go to Google and put side effects, and you'll be very shocked at how many drugs that are prescribed by you you were never told, even though you know that when they advertise on television, any drug it takes 5 minutes to cover all the things that it can do to you, including killing you. But now we've got a 10-year-old who's not doing so well. So if we would like to think about it, how we're going to get him off his medicine? Is there a natural supplement? Well, yes, I have extensive experience. In Sacramento, California, all the problem kids finally got referred to me because this teacher's network would tell the parent, you better get your child down to Dr. Gordon. And we would do the hair mineral test. We'd see how toxic they were. And even when people go crazy and kill everybody and shoot everybody, if you take a hair mineral test, you'd be amazed how toxic they were with the heavy metals, and those heavy metals totally disrupted what we call neurotransmitter function. So when somebody made them a little mad, they went home and got a shotgun and killed everybody. So there's a lot of reasons for inattention, but try to understand that even California tried to protect the children from the bad medicine being practiced because the doctor's in a hurry. And he's going to say, oh, it's just a Ritalin deficiency. What nonsense. They did try to pass a law that nobody should, first of all, if you read the PDR, they shouldn't be on these drugs for more than a year, but they go on year after year because no one fixes anything. They never find out what foods did he react to. No one ever does any of the tests for the candida, chlamydia, the cytomegalovirus. I mean, we do know the word chronic inflammation leads to Alzheimer's and cancer, and we know chronic inflammation. But in the old days, when I went to medical school, inflammation meant something like redness and swelling and pain and edema, and you often had to realize that always there was some kind of infection associated with a lot of inflammation, but today they ignore that. Why? Because they'd have to admit how incompetent our current diagnostic tests are, because you can spend thousands. Garth Nicholson has a great laboratory in Southern California, but it's easy to spend $5,000, and so does Dr. Aristo Vajdani, Immunosciences Laboratory, has excellent tests to try to find the names of some of these critters. But in all people, we will find critters. They're going to be either viral or fungal or bacterial, and it's called total body burden of pathogens. So I'm always trying to deal with it. So when I look at somebody who's not doing well, in the early days, when I first practiced this kind of medicine, I've only been in medicine 51 years, and about 40 years ago, I kind of got tired of the drugs and saw how little good they were doing and how much bad they were doing. So I've been involved in this advanced medicine for more than 40 years. Now, in the early days, all I had to do was just get a little lead out of these kids, and immediately they did a bit better. We have heavy detox, it's DMSA. We have the fiber, the high dose. See, almost anything, if you think about it, if you're going to win a fight for health in anybody, you've got to sit there and say, well, there's two basic approaches. I want to get the bad stuff out of you, and I want to put the good stuff in. But that gets really complicated because good stuff in means you might have to learn all the fatty acids and amino acids and the mucopolysaccharides. You may have to learn the neurotransmitters. It's not simple to learn all the good stuff in. And the bad stuff out, if it starts at $4,900 to measure organics, and that doesn't do anything for the inorganics, you don't learn anything about lead, mercury, et cetera, for the $4,900 that you spend at Mount Sinai. So you can see this is not simple, but you can start to work with a model.